Yo, this is Saint Sergi, and you're now listening to Valley Views on 101.5 FM. Check it out.
And now you are tuned in to Valley Views with your host, Hector.
Yo, it's Fernando. Shouts out to Valley Views, man. They played me on the station. I was like, let me make you a jingle. So this is my jingle I made for this. This is what I had to do. This is Valley Views. This is what I had to do. This is Valley Views. Come sing it like that. So what you want? Come sing it like that. So what you want? Come sing it like that. So what you want? Come sing it like that. So what you want? I wasn't tripping when I lost my job. No reason to lie to my mom. Now I got 8, 9 to 5, y'all. I was like, right on. No work on weekends, eh? I'm waking up early, sleep at 8. I think I'm surely dreaming, eh? Just look at what Burns achieving, eh? 20 pro skater, I'm gonna grind. Not one opportunity I will decline. I show up early like people time. Jokes and truth, I jot in the rhyme. Chicano house to Omatsu now. To a song with y'all in his papa's house. 818 to San Diego. Become a legend in the valley like Danny Trejo. This is what I had to do. This is Valley Views. This is what I had to do. This is Valley Views. Come sing it like that. So what you want? Come sing it like that. So what you want?
Yes, folks. Welcome back, everybody, to Valley Views here on KROJ 101.5 FM. Again, I am your host, Hector, and it's just my pleasure, my honor to be here with y'all here in the studio. Our studios are right here in the city of San Fernando. We broadcast all throughout the San Fernando Valley, of course, on the airways on 101.5 FM. And we are also online. We have our dedicated URL stream. Feel free to go to our at Valley Views SFB on Instagram and all other social media platforms. Hit the link there for the live feed as well. But it is my pleasure to be back here as we are continuing here the Meet the Candidates 2022 series here on Valley Views on KROJ. And today I wanted to go ahead and introduce a candidate here who is running for the California Senate District 20. We are talking about Caroline Menjivar. Caroline, how are you, first of all?
Hi, Hector. Good evening.
How was it to just come in here and on this lovely Thursday evening?
It's perfect. A nice 15-minute drive. I live in Panorama City, so it was nice. No traffic.
Excellent. And really, so you're running as a candidate for California Senate District 20, and just tell us, why did you decide to jump into this race for this particular round of elections?
Yeah, Hector, this is where I grew up. This is my backyard. So I've been here my whole life. I've had the opportunity to be in experiences that has exposed me to certain injustices, from being in the military as a queer woman during Don't Ask, Don't Tell, as one of the only women, to working as an EMT here in Van Nuys, transporting patients to and from skilled nursing facilities where there's a lack of accountability. I saw the lack of mental health access, dropping off patients at so many hospitals, and then not getting the resources. I've worked as a staffer for elected officials, so you can imagine I've been on the front lines, seeing the gaps, but seeing the strains in the beautifulness that is the city of San Fernando and Burbank. So I've been advocating for this community for close to 15 years, and I felt that my voice was needed in Sacramento. This is a majority Latino district. I'm a Latino running. I think it's important that we elect equitable representation. I've been looking at the seat, and I felt that the things that I want to impact is on a state level. So I threw my name in the ringer. Most often women have to be asked 7 to 8 times to run, but I prepared myself, and I'm ready for this.
All right, right on. Well, it sounds like you definitely have the energy. You're ready to go. And tell me, so the state budget right now, the governor's proposed budget for 2022, 2023, we're looking at, $286 billion. California in general is usually ranked, 5th in world economies, right? So this is, a state that obviously has a lot of resources, but one of the things that we also have seen in our state here is, especially now with what's going on overseas in Ukraine, with Russia, that conflict, skyrocketing gas prices. There is, talks now of opening up, certain oil drilling off the coast of California, which, not too far from here. And so just what are your thoughts as a candidate for the Senate California Senate District 20 on just our dependency here in California too on oil and gas prices.
Yeah, let me start with the most recent incident that we had, the oil spillage in the OC, right off the coast of the OC. Do we want more incidents of that? Hector, I'm looking to represent a community that has been disproportionately impacted by environmental injustices in this area. We're talking about air pollution, Valley Generating Plant, methane leak. You have the Aliso Canyon that had that leak a couple years ago. I am the candidate that's running to ensure that we bring back the champions for environmental injustices and stripping away from our dependency in the fossil fuel industry. There's a couple of things that I'm a champion for. So divesting as much of our dependency from this fossil fuel industry that continues to get subsidies, when those subsidies should be shifted to more greener, sustainable jobs. There's a recent initiative to divert CalPERS and CalSTRS pension away from investments in oil. And that's the kind of thing that we need to start doing to strip away from that. Hector, the gas is saying right now it's because of the war in Ukraine. No, they're taking advantage of that to gouge the prices as much as possible. But I'm going to go up to Sacramento to ensure we bring clean energy to the state of California so we don't have to be dependent on those high prices.
And speaking of those high prices, we also have not just in the oil prices, but also we have housing. That's also another big industry that has seen an inflation, a markup when it comes to housing and also rents. And so what do you think the state of California, in particular in the Senate chamber of California, do you think you could do to bring some of these prices to a rate that's affordable for folks in California?
Yeah, I'll start with this. First I'll commend the governor for his for the budget that he's put aside for housing and homelessness, because it's tied in, right? We need to keep people in homes and we need to put people in homes at the same time. But it's not enough to meet the needs that we have right now. Hector, we're going on a couple of years now of surplus. It's about $31 billion in surplus in the state of California. That could solve so many of the crises that we're seeing. I'm looking to go up there and reimagine what housing looks like. So we have Project Home Key that is converting a lot of our old hotels, right? It's not enough. We are now have shifted away from what the workplace looks like, and we have a lot of empty commercial buildings in this area. So reimagining those with a sustainable lens through it. So this means it cuts the amount of time that we have to build a building because it's already there. And on top of that, it's, no pun intended, on top of a commercial entity. So you are addressing something through a sustainable lens, because I want to see the San Fernando Valley, the city of San Fernando, replicate what we see in West LA, Woodland Hills, what we see in Culver City, where you have people that aren't dependent on cars because they live on top of the things they need to go to, right? We don't have hubs like that here in California. So you're addressing more than one thing in there. Another thing that I'm looking to see is a housing bond, bonds that were passed a couple years ago through Prop 1 and Prop 2 in the state of California to allocated $6 billion for this, but we're at the time where we need to increase that. And I'm hoping that if it doesn't get on the November 2022 ballot, that I would champion something like that in the next session.
Okay. And I want to move into also education now. In the latest budget proposal by the governor, about 25% of that $286 billion is going towards K through 12 and higher education, about 8%. One, do you feel that's enough investments in public education, both K through 12 and higher ed? And also, two-part question. For higher education, we also have seen this, increase of tuition. And is there anything you think that the state can do to also curb some of that inflation going on there?
Absolutely. I don't think it's enough. We still fall short across what nationally other states are paying per pupil, right? And we're falling behind New York, New Jersey. when we're the fifth largest economy, we should be leading in this. So I think we can do more. I also think that money could be funded through, if we eliminate the way we fund our schools. We're funded right now based on attendance, right, versus enrollment. And if the COVID, Hector, taught us anything, is that we can't do this. The schools that are being hurt the most are in Black and brown communities, because think about all the generational trauma that is associated to a lot of these communities, right? We can't look at an individual and says, oh, you're just not coming to school. There's so much going on perhaps at home that is not being addressed, and we're just focusing on them getting to school. So I am running on a platform of increased mental health access to the state of California. I'm a social worker. That's what I went to school for. And I went to public schools, and it's different now. The funding, the resources at these schools. So this is how I see it, Hector. If we invest in a person, the return rate is twice-fold, right? They're going to be raising our revenues, because they'll be providing into society, paying what they need to pay, purchasing X amount of things, And so when I talk about mental health issues, I talk about starting it at the school, increasing the ratio of mental health therapists to students, because right now it's like 60 students per therapist or more. It's not enough.
Yeah, and definitely we see that need out there in our public schools. And then what about when it comes to just in general, we've had this pandemic that hit our state hard, hit our economy hard, but also at the same time, we have seen a big disproportion of folks that, during the last 2 years have gotten very wealthy, right? And while we have, a lot of Californians who are, definitely experiencing everything from, our unhoused neighbors to like what you already alluded to with mental health. But how do you see the role of the state helping to address some of these economic inequalities that, seem to be getting further, the gap seems to be getting further and further, in our communities?
Yeah, for starters, everyone keeps saying this, not everyone, I shouldn't say that. We keep often hearing the statement of tax the rich. That's really what it is. We're not taxing, corporates have corporate tax loopholes. Unfortunately, Prop 15 failed a couple of years ago on the ballot. The voters voted against that. But I think that's something that could be taken up in the state level, because we get our income taxes is increasing, our sales tax is increasing, but commercial property tax is staying exactly the same as it was a couple decades ago. It's not raising with inflation, right? So if we were to we really bring that up on the state legislator side, that's where we'd get our billions of money that we're missing. If we were to really actually tax the 1%, that's where we'd get our money to fund a lot of these programs and close that equity gap.
Yeah, and I think that's something that a lot of folks have been trying to work on for a good minute already.
You got to build that bench. I'm trying to build that bench so we have a majority up there.
There you go. And then and with that, what do you see is the greatest need here in Senate District 20?
Yeah, Hector, this is a middle class working community, right? There's so much that's needed here. One of the key things that come to mind is renter protection. There are so many renters here. I actually work at Mend right now in my 9 to 5, and I lead a team that helps people fill out their emergency rental assistance applications, right? But that was only created during the pandemic. This is a need that is needed consistently to ensure we keep people inside. So I'm looking to tap in and make sure that the federal continues, like the Biden administration said that we're going to provide funding for this. Ensure that happens and we bring it to this community, because they need better renter protection, legal services available to them. Like the city of LA did, LA Represents during the pandemic. That needs to stay at all times. And honestly, I'm going to go back to saying mental health. Our Black and brown communities are hurting a lot, and there's still a stigma around mental health. But I think it's breaking. It is, and I want to make sure we bring the wraparound services to the youth to ensure once they become adults, they're ready to go. Because I don't think we're preparing our youth for after high school. And then finally, I'll say it's environmental for this area. Highest rates of asthma, worst air pollution. If you go to Sun Valley, you can literally touch every single car and there's a layer of dust in them because of where it's located. So quality of life at the end of the day is what's needed here. Better quality of life.
Yeah. Thank you for just speaking to that as well. And what about excuse me? What about as far as who are some of the folks that you have built with? And folks that are endorsing you in your political campaign.
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. Short of going into the politics behind a campaign, is like I'm very excited to share that it's the grassroots advocates that are endorsing me. I have the support of every single local Democratic club so far here that in the area. I have grassroots support from indivisible groups. They're called indivisibles, and community leaders. I have the support of executive directors of the only LGBTQ plus organizations in this district. Community leaders that work in other community-based organizations and nonprofits that are on the front lines of addressing the needs of a lot of youth programs and so forth. So that's where my support is coming from the people, because I reflect this community and they see that.
Yeah. And if you were to be elected and be the next senator for Senate District 20 here in California, what would be either your first bill that you would author and or co-author and sponsor?
Yeah. The first bill I'm looking to introduce is a repeal of a bill from the 1960s, late 1960s. It's called the LPS Act. I'm trying to repeal that because it right now creates a barrier from us helping individuals who are chronically mentally ill on the streets. So you can imagine, I don't know if you experienced someone running in front of your car. I have. Or you're like about to hit someone, or they're rolling around nude or unfortunately in their feces, and we can't legally do anything about that right now. So I'm looking to redefine what it means to be gravely disabled in the state of California. And Governor Newsom actually introduced an initiative a couple of days ago, very similar to what I want to do. So that's the first thing I'm looking to do to address the chronically mental illness that we see on the street. It's not that everyone on the street has that, but there's a good percentage of that it could help.
Yeah. Well, that's good to know. I need to do some more research on that LPS Act myself, But as we are, looking at different things happening in our communities, and obviously our communities linked up, right? You mentioned the environment as well, and transportation. Transportation is goes hand in hand, right, with the environment, to the environmental impact. But what do you think the state needs to do in general to just make transportation in the state of California, right, our roads, our highways, whether it's here in District 20 or in general throughout the state of California, to really continue to take care of our infrastructure? Yeah, the Infrastructure Act was just passed on the federal level maybe a month ago or something like that. And it's now in the state's hands to bring some of that funding to their respective districts. And I have seen the current legislators do that, but that's what's needed, right? To bring that to address our freeways. So on a state level, where we have jurisdiction over our freeways. No one can debate the difference that we see in our freeway underpass or ramps compared to the ones in the OC or Riverside, right? It's vastly different. So reallocating Caltrans equitably to the Black and brown communities is of importance in the state of California, and the state legislators are the ones who advocate for that. I think about funding for public transportation that's coming in this area, like the light rail that's coming, right? So much desperately needed, but on 100 times fold. And that comes from the state to ensure I'm going to put aside the funding for the local government to initiate that. Yeah. Okay. And as we're getting pretty much close to wrapping it up here, first of all, what are some of your final thoughts that you want to leave our audience with? Yeah, thank you, Hector. I think it's important that we elect individuals who have the same lived experiences of the community, right? Because when you drive and push policy through that experienced lens, it goes above and beyond. When community members come up to me and say, before as a staffer, Caroline, I'm in the process of being evicted, or I'm struggling having to work more than one job, or the rent is crazy.
I go above and beyond from just saying, oh, I can imagine what that's like. I've experienced that. I've been evicted when I was 18 years old and my mom, we lost our home. I've had to work since 15 to help my single mom, or work more than 2 jobs while going to school because of financial instability. You know, I've had to struggle like that. I'm just looking now to go to Sacramento to remove those barriers from anyone else having to go through that. So, like I mentioned, I have close to 15 years being an advocate here, domestic violence therapist, EMT in this area, a staffer. I work at a nonprofit, and I go to high schools and I train them to be more safe and affirming for our queer kids. I'm just looking to, like I mentioned, take that to the next level.
Right on, right on. Well, we want to just thank you so much for being here, sharing a little bit more about your vision, your platform as you run here for State Senate. So once again, we've had with us here Caroline Menjivar running for State Senate.
Hector,
District
can
20.
I
Yes,
forgot
go
to
ahead.
mention something.
Yes.
Well, if anyone wants to learn more, please visit my website. It's carolinemenjivar.com, Caroline Menjivar, but spelling it is menjivar.com. Facebook, Instagram at Join Caroline Menjivar.
There it is. So with that said, we're going to go ahead and play a quick musical break, and we'll be right back here on Valley Views, y'all.
Yo, it's Fernando. Shouts out to Valley Views, man. They played me on the station. I was like, let me make you a jingle. So this is my jingle I made for them. This is what I had to do. This is Valley Views. This is what I had to do. This is Valley Views. Got me singing like, eh, eh, eh. So what you want? Got me singing like, eh, eh, eh. So what you want? Got me singing like, eh, eh, eh. So what you want? Got me singing like, eh, eh, eh. So what you want? I wasn't tripping when I lost my job. No reason to lie to my mom. Now I've got 8, 9 to 5, y'all. I was like, right on, right on, right on. No work on weekends, eh? Waking up early, sleep at 8. I think I'm surely dreaming, eh? Just look at what Burns achieving, eh? 20 pro skater, I'm gonna grind. Not one opportunity I will decline.